Hey everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault, and once again I'm coming to you with another range report. And today's range report is on a really cool AR style pistol. Well, it's an AR in some ways and it differs in others. But today we're going to be taking a look at the CMMG Dissent. Now this is a 300 Blackout pistol. Now before I get into this range report, I do have to give you a little bit of a caveat. It is early January 2024 as I am filming this video, and I need to future-proof this because as I am recording this, it is legal for me to use a pistol stabilizing brace on this particular firearm. I'm not sure what the future is going to hold. Hopefully, this injunction will become permanent and the ATF cannot enforce their pistol brace rule, but I don't know what the future holds. So in case you're watching this in the future, as I'm filming this, this is a legal configuration for this firearm. But let's talk a little bit more about this particular gun. This is made by CMMG, a relatively innovative firearms company when it comes to AR style guns. And I have to say this is a firearm that was not on my list of things that I had been interested in. I've always kind of felt like once you get an AR-15 this small, they can be a little bit unwieldy because they're kind of loud. But this one's chambered in 300 Blackout, a cartridge that is designed for shorter barrels. So hopefully this thing is going to be pretty manageable and a lot of fun to shoot. But before I get into the things that I like and don't like about this gun, as always, I want to thank the people that make these videos possible. First and foremost is the owner of this really cool AR style pistol. His name is Colin and he has lent quite a few guns to the channel. So thank you so much again, Colin. It means the world to me. As always, I want to thank my Patreon supporters because through their monthly donations and support, they help keep the lights on, and I couldn't do this without them. And if you guys want to join my Patreon for as little as $1 a month, you guys can get all of these videos early. There's a link in the description. And as always, I want to thank my primary sponsor for every single one of these range reports, my good friend Mark from Brownworks. And I know if you like companies like CMMG, you like other innovative companies. And I have the perfect grip company for you that is always innovating and coming out with new products. And that company is Brownworks. Mark over there, who's the owner, he's an artist, he's a craftsman. He's always creating new and innovative grips, things made out of laminate woods, applying snake skin, alligator skin, finishing these fine wood grips in a number of different colors and textures. He can even apply custom logos and custom engravings. He makes grips for guns like 1911, CZ75s, Beretta 92s, and Browning High Powers, just to name a few. And if you guys are in the market for fine custom wood grips that are one of a kind, I'm going to ask you guys to go check out his website. And I'm going to put a link in the comments section below, as well as a coupon code for 10% off your first order. Please go over there, give Brownworks a look. I guarantee you that you're going to find what you're looking for. And in case you don't, please contact Mark, and when you do, tell him the Texas Gun Vault sent you. So let's talk about this gun just a little bit more. Once again, we're taking a look at the CMMG Dissent. And this is a very compact AR style pistol chambered in 300 Blackout. And I've had a little opportunity to take this gun apart, look at it, because I'm always fascinated with the mechanics of guns. And this gun really does seem to be an AR in terms of the lower receiver, and out here because we do have a typical gas impingement system. However, the rear of the receiver does not have a buffer, and it kind of uses a system like the Sig MCX. So it's like an AR-15 in this area, like a Sig MCX up in this area. So it really is kind of a hybrid system and borrows a lot of innovations from other guns, but in a very small and compact package. In fact, the owner of this gun, Colin, said he purchased this because he wanted something that could be used in a CQB setting in his home for home defense. And he thought this might be the perfect firearm. Compact, but with a lot of power. So who knows, maybe this is the perfect gun for that situation, and we're going to find out. But let's talk about the things that I like and don't like about this firearm as it sits here on the workbench. And as always, I want to start off with the positive first. And the first thing that I really like about this gun is the fact that it is made by CMMG. And I think CMMG has come a long way. I first learned about this company when I was early in my firearms exploration and I was building, well, at that time, affordable ARs. And they offered these parts kits for like triggers and lower receivers. And I kind of felt like they were okay. And then all of a sudden they started to innovate. They started to come up with these new locking mechanisms and new guns and finishing them in a lot of different colors. They're just a really innovative company, and I'm always impressed by the stuff that I get to review from them. The other thing that I really like is the fact that because we don't have a buffer system in the back, we have a plethora of options with this rail for stocks and different types of braces. Now, the brace I have on this pistol today is from Strike Industries. It is relatively thin, and some of my comments later in this range report are going to be about this, but this is not really stock with this gun, but I know it is a popular option with guns like this. I really like the finish of this gun as well. Although it might not be my favorite color, every gun I have ever reviewed from CMMG has been finished very, very well. I never find a blemish or a problem with it at all. You'll also notice this has a side charger like an MP5 up here on the side. I love this. I really think that more guns need to have that. I find them to be very ergonomic because you can keep your hand on the pistol grip and charge it from up here instead of having to use a charging handle in the back, which is closer to your hand. And having this out there, I think, is really, really convenient, and I love that aspect of the design. The last thing here on the workbench that I noticed that I really liked was the trigger. This thing feels really, really good. In some ways, it's very light and crisp. Well, once you hit that wall, it's a little bit heavier. It's a very kind of a weird feeling. I believe CMMG calls this their zeroed trigger, but it does seem to be very nice. You can stage it well, and it's very predictable. So let me go ahead and adjust the camera. Let's get out the trigger pull weight gauge, and let's actually see what this trigger measures at. So as I was mentioning, the trigger in this gun seems to be really, really nice. Let's go ahead and drop the magazine, ensure there's no ammunition in it, and of course safety check the firearm, visually inspect that chamber, and it looks like we are good and clear. Alright, so let's get out the Lyman trigger pull gauge, and by the way, thank you again, Craig, for donating this to the channel so we can get this data. Let me go ahead and clear all the averages out, and let's get some trigger pulls in and see what they are. Our first pull, 3 pounds, 15.5 ounces. Three pounds, 12.1 ounces. 4 pounds, 0.1 ounces. Four pounds, 2.2 ounces. And finally, 4 pounds, 10.4 ounces. Now that variation might be because with this flat face trigger, where this gauge rides on it might affect where the pull weight is. So maybe I should do just a few more pulls on this just to get a better average. Three pounds, 10.5 ounces. And we'll do one more. 4 pounds, 2.1 ounces for an average of 4 pounds, 0.7 ounces. And I think that is a really, really nice trigger pull. It is not too light where I think it's dangerous, but it's also not too heavy. And I really think that's going to translate into this being a very accurate firearm. All right, so that's what the trigger pull is on this awesome gun. So let's get back to the rest of the range report. Alright, and as you can see, that's actually a pretty darn good trigger for a firearm of this type. I really do like it. But now let's talk about a couple things about this gun that I don't like. And believe it or not, one of the things about this gun that I don't like is also with the trigger, and you saw me struggle with it in the trigger pull weight test, and that is the fact this gun uses a flat trigger shoe. Let me get out of the way there so you can see it. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of flat face triggers. I find them to be a little bit awkward, especially when they are hinged. Unlike a 1911, where the trigger comes straight back into the firearm, I don't mind it there, but when it's hinged, I don't like it. It feels a little bit weird because part of my finger travels a different distance than the other part, and depending on where you put your finger, whether it's higher or lower on the trigger shoe, will have a different weight to it. So I don't find it to be as consistent or as comfortable. But I do know that is a personal preference and just something that I prefer in guns like this, to have a curved shoe. Another thing about this gun I don't like, and maybe I'm just a traditionalist, is the fact that the safety selector switch is a 45-degree one instead of a 90-degree one. Now I know that's something that's new and cool in the AR world, but for me, I'm just so trained and used to having a 90-degree selector that I just prefer one that is more traditional. And the last thing that I don't like about this, which I think is actually going to give me some issues because the owner of this pistol asked me to look into this when I reviewed it, is the fact this gun does not have a forward assist. And the reason I bring that up is Colin, who owns this gun, says, hey, sometimes this gun won't go completely into battery. And just handling it here on the workbench, I kind of discovered that. Now, of course you know, because this does use a rotating bolt. It has a locking system. If you release the bolt and put it home a little bit slow, it's not going to go all the way into battery. But we're used to that when it comes to AR-15s. It has to have a little bit of force. However, I have discovered that sometimes even when I let the bolt go from a completely reversed position, it doesn't always go fully into battery. And when I was loading this gun for the first time at the range, I actually discovered this. On a full magazine, I discovered that if I released the bolt, it didn't always go fully into battery and it would not fire that first shot. I definitely think this gun needs a forward assist. And I know the argument of people saying guns don't need forward assist. It's not the way Eugene Stoner designed it, and I totally get it. But I think there's something about this locking mechanism that because we don't have a buffer system, it may require a little bit more energy to have the bolt locked and unlocked. And if that's the case, you definitely need a forward assist. But we're going to see if I have any major issues with this at the range. And speaking of the range, let's get this really cool firearm to the range because I can't wait to shoot it. So as always, I'm going to start off by putting the target at 10 yards. I'm going to load a full magazine here. I'm going to shoot it for the very first time, get my initial thoughts and impressions, see if there's anything that I discover about this gun that I like or don't like, and then I'll report back to you before going on to the rest of the range report. So here we go. Let's take this thing to the range. Well, I'm not going to complain with that accuracy at all. I'm pretty darn impressed with this thing, and this thing definitely wants to be shot fast, and I think a lot of that has to do with this really nice trigger. Something that I did really enjoy, and I wasn't expecting to, was the report of this gun. I was thinking something with this short of a barrel, it was going to be really loud, but overall it was about the same volume as maybe a 14.5-inch unsuppressed AR-15. And some of that might have to do with the fact this has a pretty cool blast deflector as a muzzle device. It definitely works and keeps all that noise and gas going downrange versus coming back to the shooter. Something that maybe I don't like as much about this gun is that it does seem to have more recoil than a typical AR-15. And that could be because of two reasons. Number one, we have that bufferless system, so all of the recoil mechanism is in the upper receiver. It's a little bit shorter, and that bolt is coming back into the end of that receiver. That could be giving me that sensation, as well as the fact that the Strike Industries brace is very, very thin. So I don't have a lot of contact surface on my shoulder, but it's not too much more than that of a standard AR-15. It's not as much as an AK-47. It's somewhere in between. It kind of surprised me a little bit. All right, so now let's double the distance on this target. I'm going to go for the head on this silhouette, see if this group stays the same, and if I discover anything else about this gun that I need to report back to you about. So here we go. Let's double the distance and see how the gun continues to shoot. And yes, at the very end there, I did flinch just a little bit because I couldn't tell that the bolt had locked open. Maybe it has to do with the recoil system, but you know when you're shooting an AR-15, it has a different sound and a different feel when the bolt locks open. This gun doesn't seem to have that as much, so it kind of surprised me. And because the recoil is a little bit heavier with this thinner brace, I was kind of anticipating it, and yes, I did flinch a little bit. But the gun does continue to seem to be just as accurate. I'm very impressed with its performance. All right, so the next thing I want to do is do the bench rest test. However, the barrel is so short, I can't really put it up against my bag. So I am going to have to put the magazine on the shooting table. And hopefully that's not going to affect the accuracy or the function of this gun in any way, but it's just the best that I can do. So I'm going to say that this is shooting against a barrier. So here we go. I'm going to put the target out at 25 yards, and yes, I know this gun can be way more accurate than just at 25 yards, but this is designed to be a CQB type of firearm, so I'm just going to review it at 25 yards, and I think that's the way Colin, the owner of this, would want to use it. So here we go. Let's see what type of accuracy I can get at 25 yards, shooting this up against a barrier. And I am super impressed with those results. Even though I was shooting this gun faster than I do most of the time when I'm doing the bench rest and barrier test, it's super, super accurate, and this trigger is just awesome. Something else I'm noticing is this gun is very well gassed. It's very well balanced. I'm not getting anything being blown back into my face, and I'm not smelling it, but it's also functioning perfectly. It does have an adjustable gas block here in the front, and it is set on the factory settings, so of course it's supposed to run unsuppressed supersonic with no problem. But the next test I want to do is to see if it will run unsuppressed subsonic. And I know some people always say in the comment section that's a stupid test because subsonics are designed to be run with a suppressor. Well, here's the thing. The reason I like to do this on these types of guns is not everybody has access to a suppressor, and maybe there's a time of a great ammo crunch, and the only ammo you can get is subsonic, and you might own a gun like this and not own a suppressor, and you just want to know, Can this thing run subsonic ammo unsuppressed and not have any function issues? Because that might be the situation that you're in. So I want to test it. If this gun can run unsuppressed subsonic on the same settings, well, you know it's going to be a very reliable gun. So here we go. A whole magazine of subsonic ammo, unsuppressed, and let's see if it still functions. And look at that, the gun runs perfectly with subsonic ammo and unsuppressed. Now I have done this on a number of different firearms like the Q Honey Badger, and it failed that test. So this gun I think is really well gassed, very well balanced, and it functions great. Alright, so the next test I want to do is the quick magazine change test. I just want to see if I can shoot this gun fast, drop the magazine, get a new one inserted, and of course get the gun back in action. We have all these controls that are ambi. This should not be a problem whatsoever. So here we go, the quick magazine change test, and just seeing how fast I can shoot it in small bursts. Alright, and now this issue about the gun possibly not going into battery is starting to rear its head. You guys saw I dropped the bolt and it did pick up that first round. However, the bolt wasn't completely in battery. Now, I didn't just gently release that bolt. It went all the way home. And so it wasn't able to fire that first round. And then when I tried to safety check the gun to get that round out of the chamber, this thing locked up a little bit. So I don't know if that bolt has maybe a burr on it or maybe in the barrel extension, but sometimes if a round was partially chambered and the bolt was not fully home, it's really hard to unlock it. And without the forward assist, you can't put it into battery. So I did discover this a couple times, like I mentioned, when I was first trying to shoot this and load this when I got it to the range. All right, so let's try it again with another full magazine. Uh-oh, and it happened again. Now obviously I charged the gun a different way and we're still getting the same result. This just kind of seems like something that happens from time to time, but not always. But I always want to document all of my personal experiences with these firearms at the range. So I always want to be unbiased and honest. All right, well, all I can do is give it another shot. So here we go. And yes, I can shoot this gun pretty fast, and this trigger is awesome. I was a little bit slow on the reinsertion of the magazine, but that was more me than the gun. This is pretty much a standard mil-spec lower receiver for an AR, so if you're used to quick mag changes, you'll be able to do it fast. That was just my personal take on that. These controls are really awesome. They are ambi. You got bolt releases, magazine releases on both sides of the firearm. I really do like that. You can actuate those really, really quick. I will say when you're shooting this gun fast, you begin to notice this brace a lot more because it digs into your shoulder because it is so thin. And this has nothing to do with this particular gun, just the brace that is currently on. And of course, you can change that out. And because it has a little bit more recoil, you notice my group when I was shooting fast was not as tight as I was hoping it would be. It just bounces around a little bit more. And with this thinner brace, it just dug into my shoulder. All right, so the last thing I want to do is just give you guys what I call the gun porn. Essentially, I just just want to dump a complete magazine through this because this gun is so much fun to shoot. It doesn't prove anything except just showing you how fast the gun can be shot by me, if you want to see that. So here we go. Just one big old mag dump, and then I'll give you guys my final thoughts. And man, oh man, is that a lot of fun. And yes, this gun wants to be shot fast. It's great for 300 Blackout. So what are my final thoughts on the CMMG Dissent pistol chambered in 300 Blackout? Isn't that just a beautiful, good-looking firearm? I really like it. Well, there are definitely pros and cons to this gun. A few pros to it are, number one, it's exceptionally accurate. I am very impressed with that. It's not as loud as you would think it would be, and it wants to be shot really, really fast. It's definitely great for CQB, and it's so compact. I definitely think, especially chambered in 300 Blackout, this would be the ultimate home defense gun. Perfect for CQB style self-defense. I'm very impressed with that. But let's talk about a couple things about this gun that I don't like. Of course, the biggest issue is going to be that not going into battery issue. It happened enough that it is worth noting. So I don't know if this is a problem across the board or just with this particular example. I am going to do a field strip video on this gun, and when I do, I will inspect that bolt, and you guys need to watch that video, and I'll let you know if I find out anything. And I think a lot of that, though, could be fixed with just having a forward assist. The other thing is that it does have a little bit more recoil than a standard AR-15. So if you're used to AR-15s and like that super light recoil, you don't necessarily get it with this. But it's not bad overwhelmingly. It's just something that you would notice. But overall, the gun is great, and I'm very impressed with its accuracy, its shootability, and overall its reliability, except for that not going into battery issue. So on my star system, how would I rate the CMMG Dissent pistol chambered in 300 Blackout? Well, I give this 4.5 stars out of 5. If this thing would have not had that battery issue, I would have given it 5 out of 5 stars. It did exceed my expectations, but I always come to you guys and share my personal thoughts and experiences with it. And sometimes these guns just don't run perfectly. This one did not, but it was pretty darn close. I'm impressed with how well gassed it is. It can run supersonic and subsonic, super accurate. I love the charger up here in the front. Reminds me a lot of an MP5. It's just a great gun, and I think a real winner from CMMG. So what do you guys think? Have you guys shot one of these pistols? Have you had that out of battery issue with any of your CMMG guns? I'd like to know in the comments section below. And does a gun like this interest you for self-defense and maybe home protection? So, as always, thanks for watching.